Home. Home.
Banner, what the fuck are you doing?
I'm connecting with the other bros.
Hey, Banner, I got your telepathic message. Here's that beer you asked for.
Oh, thanks, man.
Damn it, where's my beer?
You didn't ask Horns for one.
Welcome in to the Bro 4 Squad podcast, where we're just a bunch of bros drinking beer and watching TV and movies. I'm your host, the Mayor, Jeff Hornacek. Thank you guys so much for checking us out. This is our review of The Mandalorian Season 2, Episode 6, titled The Tragedy. And before we get into it and meet the fellow bros, we are here to review this as we do all of our TV episodes on the 4 Bro 4 Squad criteria: the acting, the story, our favorite scene, and any theories or questions going forward. So it's the usual crew tonight: the mad scientist Brian Banner and the American hero Nate Thurmond. Let's get right into it with the acting and the cast. Nate, we'll toss it to you first. One of the larger casts we've had probably this season, because we had a couple of returning faces. Actually, I think all technically returning faces, but obviously expanded roles for some characters that we've seen briefly in the show so far.
Yeah, we finally got the payoff that we've been waiting for, even pre-season, because we knew it was rumored that he was going to be in it. So we finally get Boba Fett back in the action, and it did not disappoint, in my opinion. His role in this episode, and he took over, especially in one of the big scenes, which everyone's aware of. But I thought the choreography that he was used in and all that, the fighting scene was fantastic. And it was a long awaited for, all Star Wars fans getting to see Boba Fett be such a badass and kick ass in such a spectacular way. It was awesome. Seeing him, and then also seeing that Finnick was nursed back to health from Boba Fett as well, and seeing her back in, and I think that's going to be a really cool dynamic. It was a cool dynamic in that episode. I think it's gonna be cool going forward. Obviously, seeing that they're kind of tied to Mando now for the foreseeable future until their deal is done. But overall, yeah, it was great as far as the acting, and not just like the acting at face value, but like I said, like the fight sequences, the choreography, and all that, and the actors doing their parts in those. And for most of the part, it seemed like there weren't too many stunt doubles used. I know there were some of it, but it looked like they were doing a lot of their own fighting. So that was really cool to see.
Yeah, obviously I love the callback to season 1, relating Boba, because we did suspect, and I think this was even in our theories and questions from last season, that the person walking up to the assumedly dead Fennec was Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. It turned out to be true. And Nate, you and I talked about this off pod, but Brian, do you think it's accurate to say that we got more screen time from Tamara Morrison and Boba Fett in this episode than actually we have had in the entire duration of Star Wars prior to this?
It's got to be close, because, really the only other time we have him is in Attack of the Clones, and I don't know if he did a lot of the stuff when he was wearing the Mandalorian helmet in Attack of the Clones. So, yeah,
well, this even comparing Boba Fett to
just Boba Fett
briefly in
Jedi. Oh, just Boba Fett? Yeah, no,
yeah.
This is hands down the longest we've ever got him. I'm sorry, yeah. I thought you were talking about the actor.
No. Just Boba Fett.
And even that, even if you add in when he's a kid, mm-hmm. As far as live action goes, yeah, this is the longest that we've ever got him.
So that was cool. And then obviously Banner, you and I from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., big Ming-Na Wen fans, was glad she came back and just continues to instill, even though I would say Boba Fett is Mandalorian adjacent, this is a loyal fucking group of people, right? Like, when they make a deal, they see it through to the end. So it's like the double pinky swear. Like, a Mandalorian or someone with a Mandalorian armor makes a promise, and you're set.
Takesy backsies.
Right. And then, of course, at the end, we get Giancarlo Esposito, who we love, and he's just been like, with the exception of maybe like one episode last season, there's so much more to Moff Gideon that I don't know when we're gonna know all of it or all his character's details, but I'm really, really excited for that. And then just briefly, Gina Carano again as Cara Dune. She's just not a good actress, man.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hate
it's,
to keep piling on.
the one scene she was in, it almost seemed like she was acting in a different scene than Mando. They were not syncing up at all, and it was a short scene too.
And then, of course, they tease Bill Burr's character. I can't remember his character's name again, but we'll get into that in theories and questions. Banner, what'd you think about the performances here?
So, do we want good first or bad first?
Yes.
All right. So,
yeah,
good. Pedro Pascal gave me all the feelies with everything that he was saying, and then obviously the way that, and I don't know the actor's name, played him physically.
Mm-hmm.
Those two, I don't know if they're on the same page or they telepathically use the Force to talk to each other, but the actions and the voice match up probably better than I've ever seen it in this entire show. And that's not saying that it's been bad. It's been fantastic. I just got all the feelies by the way that he was trying to get into Baby Yoda through the force field, and the way that you could tell this is the first time he kind of was nervous about things.
Mm-hmm.
And his body language really professed that, as well as what he was saying. Esposito, man, I thought he didn't do a very good job. I was really disappointed. I echo everything you say, Jeff, about wanting to know more about the character and excited about where they go with that. I just thought, and maybe it's just because I had such high expectations when we finally got the character in the episodes. I just didn't think it was very good. I thought he was trying too hard. He was doing too much. Especially in that kind of pseudo interrogation scene with Grogu.
Yeah, it's tough because his character almost has this, basically like the tail of the tape on him and how intimidating his character is supposed to be. It's kind of like it's been told to us, but we haven't really seen it that much.
Yeah, and it didn't live up to the hype, if you will.
Yeah. Now I still think his best moments are ahead of him this season. I hope.
100% agree.
And it almost seemed like maybe if we bitch about it tonight, they'll correct it next week, because that's exactly what happened with Boba Fett. Obviously, Lucasfilm and Jon Favreau make adjustments the day before the episode drops based on our podcast.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, they obviously don't listen to everything, because Gina Carano still sucks.
I think it's just the train has left the station with her.
There was one cool thing that I'll add in here that was a cool nod in the dialogue. Whenever Boba Fett shows up and he says, "I'm just a simple man making my way through the galaxy," that was a nod to Attack of the Clones. Jango Fett says a very similar line. "I'm just a simple man trying to make my way through the world," I think is what he says. So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's very nice."
That's a good catch.
Good catch.
Some good Easter eggs in there that are nice.
Nice.
Last thing I'm gonna say is I feel cheated with Ming-Na Wen.
Yeah, but I feel like we weren't even supposed to have her again anyway, though. So
just because she's been alive this whole time and we haven't been able to experience her?
No, because we know she is capable of the hand-to-hand combat and can do all that shit so well from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I understand she's a sharpshooter in this. She's playing a completely different character. But they had several opportunities for her to, like, pull out a fucking dagger or something and start murking people in the necks with it. And they didn't do that. I get it. I'm just disappointed because I know she's capable of doing better things than that. Yeah. And we didn't see it.
Maybe she's just still nursing that injury that they had to replace with robot parts.
I've got a big problem with that, too.
Yeah,
we'll move on.
That was pistons in her stomach.
That was kind of an issue for me, too. It's just like it's too easy in the Star Wars.
Yeah, I understand, like, and we'll just move on. This is kind of a transition to the story. I understand when somebody gets their arm chopped off or their leg chopped off or they're burnt, like, you can use technology and robotics to save them. But essentially what they just did is, unless you get shot in the head, you're not technically dead, because they can just throw a bunch of robot parts on you and you're fine.
Well, we saw the same thing with Maul. I mean, it's
I was
about to say, the same thing with Darth Maul. Did you have the same issues with that, Banner, knowing that he's still alive in the universe?
A little bit, but not as much, because Darth Maul is way fucking cooler than Ming-Na Wen.
Well, that's not enough to justify that.
Look, I told you guys
think it
going into
is.
this episode that I had a lot of issues, and it's all because of what I want, not because of what they necessarily did or didn't do.
Should you live by these robotics? Are you cool enough?
Yeah, I have the rubber stamp. I will tell you if you get to.
It's the first. I mean, it's the first question on the questionnaire. So,
All right, moving on to story and plot. The synopsis, according to IMDb, says the Mandalorian and child travel to an ancient site. And I got to say, before I even get into my 3 bullet points on the breakdown of the story, I think for the first time I was very relieved that Mando has a planet he's going to, and he actually gets there without like the Razor Crest breaking down or him getting sidetracked or something. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
we're actually on the planet we set off to go to at the end of last episode. What a breath of fresh air. So here, obviously, we have Tython, where Ahsoka Tano sent Mando and Grogu for the Seeing Stone, where he sets Grogu to reach out to the Jedi. Boba Fett and Fennec show up, and then an incredible action set piece takes place. Basically, the majority of the episode was Boba, Fennec, and Mando just fighting off in some pretty visceral action a stormtrooper contingency sent by Moff Gideon. And then, of course, at the very end, Moff Gideon captures Grogu and is not interrogating him, but torturing him, or at least testing him so that they can take a sample of him to build whatever those creatures are. So, Brian, what do you think of the story plot here?
so I'm gonna kind of backwards into this, but this isn't the team or group that I necessarily wanted. Ming-Na Wen, Boba Fett, Mando, but I'll take it. I said on previous episodes I would have rather Ahsoka, Grogu, and Mando, but whatever. Grogu creating that force field and how they visualized him reaching out in the force was not how I imagined it, and they did it so much better than what I did in my head. I wasn't sure, going back and thinking about when Ahsoka Tano says if he reaches out in the force, we'll see if somebody, comes and finds him, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how are they going to do that? Just have him sitting on a fucking rock meditating? Like, all right, that's cool.
Before the episode, I thought they might do like him hovering like Luke did on his rock. But
Yeah, I could see that. I didn't think of that prior. That would have made sense as well. But that thing coming down, or that force field that he built around him, protecting him while he's in that meditative state, was really, really cool. Loved how they doubled down on the Mando being a father figure to Grogu. As I mentioned before, Mando really, this is the first time that, I'm not going to say he lost his shit, but he was not in complete control of the situation and necessarily his emotions. Really from the time Boba Fett and Fennec show up. Quick question for you guys. When did the Iron Legion join the Star Wars universe?
Like the bootleg Ultrons at the beginning of Age of Ultron.
Yeah, I really didn't like that. I thought they were actual people, and maybe that's because of me. I thought they were actual like stormtroopers that were just like on steroids.
Dark
troopers.
Yeah, they call them dark troopers. I'm led to believe that they're not fucking droids.
Yeah, seems like they're just droids.
Like I don't know. Wasn't a fan of that. And we saw them starting to kind of bring a couple of those loose ends that we were talking about last week together into maybe we'll call them bigger loose ends, but stories are starting to collide a little bit, which I still don't know if they're going to be able to get all this together in 2 episodes, but I see the attempt, and that's cool.
Yeah, I think that was my favorite part, is the forward momentum of the narrative in this one, where they really set the clear, concise, all right, this is how the season is going to have its inevitable finale. This is what we're building towards, and we'll get into it, I think, a little bit in theories, but this sort of like Avengers-style team that Mando's going to have to assemble to go take on Gideon and get Grogu back, and kind of the race against time, because we don't know what exactly Gideon, I mean, we have an idea, but what exactly he's using Grogu to build, and what its plans mean for the galaxy. And then I think, again, Nate will probably mention this in terms of who directed this episode, but this was like one of the least effects-laden action set pieces this show has done, and it was an extensive one, and it was executed to perfection. I mean, this was like choreography and practical effects all just in this perfect cocktail of like, damn, that's a TV show. I was like, holy shit. So, Nate, what'd you think about the story?
Yeah, I'll kind of run through and touch on not scene by scene, but kind of chronologically through it. So yeah, the first Razor Crest scene when they're in that's awesome. Mando really connecting, like Banner was saying, doubling down on the dad figure, saying his name, and just like you can see the joy. And it goes back to what Banner was saying too, like the actor in the suit and Pedro Pascal, like they line up perfectly. Like he said, Grogu, he looks up, and he's like, huh. And he like laughed and like chuckled to himself. That was a real cool and touching moment. But then from there, kind of what Banner was saying too, piggybacking on that, like he's not in control. He does gets frustrated whenever Grogu takes the ball for a second, but then the rest of the episode he's not really in control of really anything that's going on. So then, yeah, I thought it progressed really well, and I'll just go ahead and jump into the director, because once they got on the planet, I was like watching. I was like, this is like different. It's shot different. It's not a bad thing. And then realized at the end that Robert Rodriguez was the director who filled in apparently for like a last second dropout director. We don't know who, which we were talking about off pod a while back.
Drama.
What's up?
Drama.
Yeah,
why do they have to replace him? Why would you want to drop out of this show? But
yeah, super weird. But yeah, this was done so great. Like the fighting scene was fantastic. It was kind of a throwback to like the original movies. I felt like you get the stormtroopers in there. It was a great way of like paying homage, and it felt like a souped up version of throwing it back, because you got like updated stormtrooper outfits, updated obviously cameras and all this stuff, shooting all that. And the way it was shot was fantastic. Like the angles and everything. And that's like obviously just like a direct correlation to the director who was controlling everything. So I think he went above and beyond expectations in that aspect of actually directing the shit out of it and getting everything they need for that. No, I'm just kind of rambling, but yeah, I mean, overall, it was super jam packed with shit. So the final part where Grogu is kind of playing with stormtroopers was great too, which got some things and theories that I'll get into later. But it was great seeing him use the Force, and I think there's some telling things in there too of how he was using the Force and what he was doing with the stormtroopers.
Yeah, great combination, I think, of action and progressing the plot.
For sure.
All right,
probably the best they've done all season.
Yeah, I agree. And
if not series.
True. There's been some awesome action set pieces this season, like the whole was it 2 episodes ago where it was Griff, Cargo, and Cara Dune working with him on that abandoned Imperial base?
Yeah,
like that whole canyon chase afterwards was awesome, but really the story didn't move until kind of like the last 30 seconds where we saw what Gideon was working on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, our favorite scene. This was a really tough one for me because I want to just say the action set piece where the stormtroopers show up on Tython, and then I realized as I kept watching the episode, I was like, this is 20 minutes long, and that wasn't a complaint, but how can I justify it as a scene when it's basically the whole fucking episode? So I think a cool homage was Boba Fett using a thermal detonator again, kind of really like the bounty hunter's like OG weapon, and I always remember from Jedi 3PO, he's got a thermal detonator, and like his whiny ass high pitched droid voice. So that was just kind of like a cool nod. But we've alluded to it twice, so I won't really add much to it. But I just want to give it credit where credit's due. And my favorite scene was, in fact, on the Razor Crest flying into Tython, messing with the top of his stick shift with Grogu, and it just sort of, again, as you guys have said, drives the point home that Mando at the start of this show was one of the most ruthless bounty hunters in the entire galaxy, and while he still has that skill set, meeting Grogu has definitely changed him forever, I think. And he's even starting to realize it, and he's okay with it, which is something you don't typically see in shows like this. Like the protagonist usually like has a lot of resistance or fights that nurture instinct that they start to develop. So it has been kind of cool to see him just embrace that. Nate, what was your favorite scene?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Obviously, yeah, it's tough not to take the fighting scene in its entirety because it's so fucking long, in a good way. But I will say just like a certain aspect of that, and they kind of touched on it in the plot, but I'll go into it a little further. Boba Fett's fighting style and like um, the first part of it is really what I liked. Whenever he was using the Tusken Raider staff that he had,
The
and he was
Vuvuzela.
I don't know, is that it? Sure,
What it
we'll go
looked
with
like.
yeah.
That's what it looked like.
Vuvuzela.
Fucks me up with a vuvuzela.
But yeah, that was like the introduction and kind of one of the things we've been waiting for. Later on, when he gets his armor and everything, is a whole different story, and I think you can classify that as a whole nother scene. But the way that was shot, like the close up combat and the fucking pieces of plastic flying off the stormtroopers' helmets as he's smashing them in, it was fantastic. It was well done. He did great in it, and then obviously it goes back to Robert Rodriguez. The angles and everything were fantastic, and he was just such a badass in that scene. It set up the rest of the fight scene. Whenever that kicked off, he was just kicking ass with that thing, and it was cool that he was using that from the Tusken Raiders too.
I'm sure there's been like a staff meeting on the Death Star with the Empire where a stormtrooper raised his hand and he was like, I got a question. What does the standard issue armor actually protect us from? Because laser blast, like, it does nothing. Like, we might as well just be in our bare skin.
Yeah.
And I know that Boba Fett, he's got a strong exit velocity when he swings that Tusken Raider thing, but the dude's like 55 and is just absolutely shredding through our helmets with this Tusken Raider staff. And the Tusken Raiders are like, dude, they're like fucking scavengers. Like, they probably find all that shit at yard sales and repurpose
Yeah.
it. So what are we're clearly not spending our money on armor, and if it's not protecting us, it's just weighing us down. Now,
Yeah, can we get a revised budget and put a little more stock into this armor?
Yeah, we're cutting corners on the material here. Banner, what was your favorite scene?
So I again really liked the Boba Fett just being a ninja and fucking people up with the Vuvuzela, but I am going to go with when Mando first comes back up to the Seeing Stone and first sees Grogu in the force field or whatever. Do we even know what that is? I mean, I know he was reaching out in the force.
I mean, we'll just call it a force field. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Whatever that was, Mando trying to get through that to save Yoda, and then realizing that's kind of when he started to lose his shit and was like, okay, well, you're doing that, but we have to leave, but I'll try and save you. I don't know if I can do this. I've got these other fucking people that I don't know if I can trust them. Shit kind of hit the fan for the first time, and watching our heroes kind of be down and not in control and honestly not knowing if they're going to get out of it or not was really, really cool to me, and seeing the emotion that Mando was actually able to have towards Grogu and really that sacrifice that he was willing to make.
Yeah, that was huge. But
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I was going to say,
Yeah.
It was interesting to the sort of the quick, like, thinking on your feet between Boba Fett and Mando, because Boba Fett and Fennec went quickly from, we'll shoot the kid just to get my armor, to then they went to, like, we'll go to the end of the galaxy to get that kid back with you. Like, the quick nature and the pivot of that relationship, and it makes sense to me, but it's just like, these guys literally fly by the seat of their pants sometimes, and it's an interesting way to live your life.
yeah,
In the galaxy. All right, anything else, or we want to move on to my favorite part of the show?
I got one last thing. Was anybody else really sad when the Razor Crest blew the fuck up?
I kind of was.
I really liked it, and
I mean, yeah, it was a good loyal ship. I don't know if I have any like emotional attachments to it though.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I can understand. Yeah.
And it didn't blow up in a way that, like, Fennec, quote unquote, died. Like, that thing blowed the fuck up.
Yeah, like, it's not going to be the Razor Crest anymore. And I'm interested to see. I assume they're just going to fly around in Boba Fett ship now, right?
And Slave One, yeah, I think it was kind of like a a plot device to get them on Slave One. Boba Fett's classic ship that everybody loves, which by the way seems super uncomfortable because the way he lands, like you have to, like if you were sitting on it, you basically are laying down.
Yeah, I was interested because it's flying this way, and all of a sudden it's landing. And I'm like, which way are they? And I don't think we've seen how they're positioned in there yet, so I'm kind of confused still.
Yeah, it's a bit bizarre. All right, theories and questions. We'll go around Rob here. I'll go first. My first theory. So the Dark Troopers, when those guys came out, Banner, maybe you know this. Have those appeared at all in Clone Wars or Rebels, any of the animated series?
Not that I'm aware of, but I also was looking for people, not droids. So there's a good possibility that they are alive or exist.
Okay, well, I was going to say this actually, instead of a theory, this really is a question. I mislabeled this one. But the Dark Troopers, those are not what Gideon is using Grogu's blood to create, right? That's just probably like a different type of force or enforcement team that he has.
I
Yeah,
would
I think-
assume so.
Yeah, I think he's using Grogu for something else.
Okay, it just seemed weird that they employed them literally. They didn't do anything. They just picked up Grogu and then flew back up to the ship. I was like, dude, I thought it was going to be kind of cool if they got to fight him or something, but it just seemed like a waste. All right, I just wanted to clarify that
Yeah.
he's not like building an army of those things specifically, but we're assuming something probably more powerful and with some force sensitivity.
Yeah, I think we even touched on this 2 episodes ago, but whenever they were at that base and they had those things in like the liquid or whatever behind the windows, I think that may have had something to do with it. I'm not too sure, just because Dr. Pershing, who's trying to extract whatever they are from Grogu, wasn't
Right.
at that base. So, but it kind of seems like they were connected.
Okay, that makes sense. I got 3 more, but we'll go round robin. Nate, what do you got?
Yeah, so this is kind of a question, and then it developed into a theory of what I think was going on. So, kind of just open it up and see what you guys are thinking. What exactly did Grogu do on the Seeing Stone? Did he connect with somebody? Was there anything? Do we think that there was anything significant that actually happened that will develop later?
So I've been wondering this for a while. Obviously, this was my next question too, so it ties into it. Who or what Jedi will respond? I'm assuming he successfully reached out.
Okay.
I'm wondering, the more I think about it, was Ahsoka kind of testing either Grogu or Mando or a combination of both to see if they would go to Tython and in fact do that? And if Grogu had the potential that she thought that he had to actually send out that call to the Jedi? Because Banner, maybe you're feeling more optimistic than I am. I don't want to say this is me being cynical because I would love for her to show back up again, but I don't see any Jedi appearing this season except for Ahsoka Tano again.
Yeah, I agree. I had a theory last week that Moff Gideon essentially tracked the Razor Crest to that planet that Ahsoka was on. He destroyed that. Ahsoka escaped, and that's how Ahsoka's going to end up back with Mando. I think that was really optimistic of me to think that was how it was going to happen. I don't see them introducing anybody else that's force sensitive this season. That's not like a end credit scene or some sort of cliffhanger. I think somehow we are going to get Ahsoka Tano back with Mando and or Grogu at some point in time, but there's no way. Essentially, they either have to take 2 characters from video games that literally nobody's going to know about.
Right.
Ahsoka Tano, clearly.
Ezra.
Luke, which I think is extremely unlikely.
Yeah,
and then
I don't see that
Ezra
happening.
Bridger is the next one. And I don't think they're going to introduce Ezra Bridger this way just because we don't know where he's at in the universe. Last time we saw him in the universe, Ahsoka Tano and Sabine, who is another Mandalorian, were actually looking for Ezra Bridger. He disappeared. So
Of his own accord, or were they like suspect foul play?
no, he disappeared on his own accord.
Okay, kind of like how Luke did in between.
Yes, kind of how Luke did. Essentially similar to how Ahsoka did at the end of Clone Wars as well. Slightly different circumstances, but
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, what Jeff was saying was kind of leading into kind of the same theory I had. So I think there was an actual bond that Grogu made, and I think it's a pretty safe assumption that it may have been a test that she sent them out there to do that, and so she knew what was coming. So she was kind of sensitive to any other feelings. If she started feeling something, someone reaching out, she was like, "Okay, I know this is going to be coming, so I'll kind of be looking for it." So I think there's going to be a bond that's connected now between her and Grogu after that, and obviously kind of high hopes, but we're here to throw out stupid and far-fetched theories anyway. But I'm thinking Ahsoka is gonna meet up and like kind of track Grogu through their bond now that they made on the Seeing Stone, and I'm just hoping for a really badass lightsaber scene on a starship
with the dark saber. And I mean, we know Ahsoka's tracking Thrawn, so if she feels like Gideon is the best vessel to get to Thrawn, which assuming there's some semblance of the Empire left, which it appears there is, I would imagine they're working together in some capacity.
Yeah.
Banner, how about you?
Badass lightsaber scenes.
I love that theory. I would also expand on that I think once Grogu, Ahsoka, and Mando are all back together, what if we had some sort of Mando is doing the training with Grogu because Grogu responds to him in that fatherly way, but Ahsoka is telling Mando, hey, do this, do that to teach him the right ways. Almost, she's using him as the tool to teach Grogu what he needs to know.
Yeah, I could definitely see that.
Something like that. I think either next week and or the season finale, which this isn't going out on a very far limb here, but we're going to have Mando, Bill Burr, Ming-Na Wen, Boba Fett, and Ahsoka Tano all fighting on one side. In the same scene, we will have Grogu there as well. We're going to have Moff Gideon and his Dark Trooper droids plus some stormtroopers, and then Bo-Katan and her army of Mandalorians all in the same scene fighting in this Royal Rumble. I'm doubling down on that Royal Rumble for the Darksaber. I don't see why that is not. I mean, that's what it looks like they're pushing towards, right?
I mean, that's season finale type shit right there.
It has to be.
You know?
Yeah.
That was actually my next theory, was that we're going to see, again, like basically an Avengers style assembling. And I predicted the same thing at the end of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It didn't happen. But this one, they've actually given us the breadcrumbs. Like, I can't remember his name, obviously, but outside of Bill Burr, but introducing his character again. I mean, that's the first step to all this happening. They already have 3/4 of the team you just described.
And I think that them introducing and bringing Bill Burr back is very interesting because what essentially was a throwaway episode from last season now has pretty significant, it holds kind of significant, what's the word I'm looking for, guys?
Significance, basically.
Significance to the plot.
Okay, thank you. That episode is now very significant to the plot.
Yeah, that's a really good point because, that episode pissed me off.
While it was badass
season.
in its own right, and it was a great episode,
yes.
You could take that out and nothing changes with the overall plot.
So it actually is kind of cool that they're bringing it back and tying it in. So whether this was planned or not, I'm assuming it probably was, at least in a small capacity. But at least it means something a little bit more now.
Yeah, that episode occurred at a time, too, in season 1 where, like, it was 3 straight episodes where it kind of felt like they were doing the exact same monster of the week. And I was like, dude, is this the show? Like, if it's not serialized, because that's kind of what I was led to believe.
We can also almost say they did the same thing this episode, but it was almost every other rather than all of them bunched up together.
Yeah.
I think the Ice Planet episode this season is going to be that version where you could take it out and it doesn't change.
Oh, for sure.
100%.
Okay, I have a theory. Guys, I think, and I don't know if we'll see this season, it might be teased, but I think at some point we're going to get Snoke kind of pulling the scenes here.
I think it's pretty plausible. I think we talked about it on a previous episode. Like, we think that maybe why they're harvesting from Grogu.
Correct. And obviously, like, we know, from the sequel trilogy, spoilers, I'm assuming you've seen all that if you're watching Mandalorian, but actually the Emperor is behind the scenes. So the technology used to harvest Grogu seems very similar to how they were growing Snoke, essentially.
Harvesting
So
Grogu just sounds so
it
disgusting.
sounds
A
weird
little
and
bit.
wrong,
Yeah.
and it is. So it
Yeah.
should sound that way. Um, but I don't know if they'll show that that directly leads to the Emperor's discovery of how to create Snoke and make this vessel to form the First Order. But I think it would be a really cool through line whenever the Mandalorian essentially wraps up to show whatever Moff Gideon and Thrawn are building leading into the First Order. Because I think when The Force Awakens starts, that was kind of one of our big questions. Like, okay, we defeated the Empire. Now there's this villainous force that looks exactly like them, has the same fucking uniforms, and
Feels like them.
right, has the same end goal, and has already somehow established dominance again over the galaxy. Like, what did we actually achieve from Jedi to now? So this could be a nice way, almost like how Rogue One ties up that, quote unquote plot hole in A New Hope, where it's like, oh, there's just a fucking hole on the Death Star you have to shoot a bomb into. Like, well, no, that was actually perfectly put there by Galen Erso, like on purpose. So this could be a nice way to sort of right that wrong. And then the last thing I had is I think even if it's just over a hologram, we're going to see Thrawn this season, albeit probably very briefly, but I think he's going to pop up. Maybe in a method where they don't need to have him cast yet. He could have like a hood on or something.
I think you're right. I don't think they have him cast. I think we are going to see a hologram, like you said, but it's going to be from the back. So we only see the back of his head. His voice is going to be a little distorted, and him talking to Moff Gideon.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the hierarchy that we're looking at right now.
That'd be badass.
Yeah. I think that would be awesome. I've got two more things. Were you done, Jeff? I'm sorry.
Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's all I got.
I got two more things. One,
cool.
Real quick, we aren't going to see Timothy Oliphant again, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, and I was obviously pulling for that big time, but
he might be aside from Ahsoka, he's probably my second favorite new character that was introduced. And he's probably a top 2 or 3 character in the whole show. And I'm really disappointed we're not going to get him. He was truly the gunslinger sheriff of a town of the Western. He reminded me that this was a Western show.
yeah,
I kind of feel now like, and it does sort of diminish his role, but his purpose was just to get Boba Fett's armor in Mando's hands, I feel like.
which I feel like was really important and done well.
For sure.
Yeah.
But like Banner was saying, it really doesn't facilitate his character coming back.
No, and like at this point, without the armor, can he really provide
Help?
much? To the help to the plot, to the
Timothy, but
I mean, it's cool because like in the first episode, he was using the jetpack with Mando and all that kind of stuff. So without it, and Boba Fett's not fucking giving it up now. So
look, you were great for a number of years for us, but we're actually going to trade you to the Knicks. So sorry, we're getting a first-round draft pick for you, though. If it makes you feel any better.
And it's the Knicks, so it'll be a high one.
Yeah. Did you have one more thing?
One more thing, and this is more of just a question for you guys. Do you think we are ever going to find out how Boba Fett escaped the Sarlacc pit? I personally kind of hope not. That's one of those things that I don't want those gnarly scars on his face to be explained. I'm perfectly fine with us saying, okay, he's a badass and he escaped. Move on.
I think if it would have been explained, it would have been explained this episode. I don't think they're going to go back and do any backstory at this point. I think it's just going to be kind of full steam ahead, and we're just going to accept it for what it is.
Agreed. He did give he said one comment relating his fate on Tatooine to Fennec, saying like I was left for dead or something like that, which I think is all we're going to get. And I'm kind of with you, Banner. I mean, there are in the Star Wars canon, like this was some of my trepidation against Rogue One ever being made, and I end up eating my words big time on that because it might be my favorite Star Wars thing ever made outside of the original trilogy. But maybe the story of Boba Fett, like you said, escaping the Sarlacc pit is cooler in our head than it is to hear or see.
Yeah, and I'm the exact same way as you. I was extremely vocal about how I didn't want a Solo movie to be made because a lot of the allure of Han Solo was the mystery.
And the Kessel Run and all that.
Yeah, with the Kessel Run and all that. You didn't know what was bullshit and what he actually accomplished. And they showed all that to us on screen. And like you said, Solo is one of my favorite Star Wars pieces. It's a ton of fun. And it was about something I didn't even want. So me saying I don't want to know about Boba Fett. With that being said, if you give me something about Boba Fett's past, yeah, I'm going to be fucking excited. And I don't even like Boba Fett.
I really don't either. I think he's overrated, but
yeah.
See, prove me wrong, Mandalorian show.
All right, yeah, I had one last thing. So I don't know what capacity, but just some of the hints that they've thrown out in the dialogue, especially an episode ago with Ahsoka Tano talking about Grogu and saying she senses fear and all this. And then with this last scene where he's throwing these stormtroopers around, and I don't know if it's just because I had the subtitles on that I noticed this, but literally he was choking one of the stormtroopers because it had the subtitles like choking, and you can look at it and like tell you've seen Darth Vader choke people. I think he's going to go dark at some point.
Yeah, that's a Sith move.
I don't know if it's full, but this may be Banner. I know. Hold on, we'll get to you. Hold on one second. I think that may lead to his exile or why he's not mentioned or anything in the last set of trilogies. I think he is gonna somehow switch dark and be too much of a threat, and they're gonna not kill him, which I had a theory about that earlier, but exile him so he's not a threat to anyone. Yeah, put him in timeout.
He's grounded, guys.
All right, Banner, go for it. I know you're excited to say something.
Two things. One, that is the most anti-Star Wars thing that I've like. That goes against everything Star Wars has ever done. Is make us fall in love with the character.
Oh, I know.
And then make him go bad. And I want as soon as you said that, I was like, fuck yeah, let's do it.
It would we think tough. Man, I don't know how they could do it, but it seems like they're going that way.
We know Grogu was trained by multiple different masters and Jedis.
Mm-hmm.
He learned the choke thing. That is a trademark of Anakin and Darth Vader. Do we think Anakin had some sort of influence on Grogu's training?
I think it's absolutely a possibility. I mean, they were at the Jedi Temple and they were on Coruscant at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, and this is easy to write off, but Ahsoka Tano herself was trained by Anakin. When she was sensing his thoughts, I wonder if she would have brought up like, oh, we both had the same master, or we were both trained by the same person. I
don't know, because I feel like Ahsoka is somebody that, because of her past and her experience with Anakin, I think she's going to keep a lot of that stuff close to her chest. She seems very reserved and very like somebody that doesn't give a lot away.
Well, obviously she had a relationship with Anakin that went south, as most of his relationships do. So if she felt like Grogu had any of that instilled in him, I wonder if she would have trepidation in helping him learn the ways of the Force.
I think there was a little bit mentioned in the episode before last. I can't remember the exact dialogue, but kind of what I was saying a second ago. I sense fear. There's a lot of fear. I can't help him. I think that may have been what she said or something.
Yeah, she said something.
So that was kind of the feeling I was getting.
And I've seen what that does to a good Jedi or something something along those lines. Yeah,
that was the line for sure.
Damn, good stuff.
Great stuff, guys.
All right, before we let everybody go, final thoughts, Banner.
Not my favorite episode, and again, that's just because I didn't necessarily want this to be the team up that we get at the end of the show. I didn't like the droids in it. I thought there was a lot of things I didn't like, but they were all very, very minor things that I can look past. It was a great episode. Ton of fun. Again, it had a Western feel, which I think is extremely important to remember. This is still a Western that just happens to take place in the Star Wars universe. And they reiterated that in this episode.
Yeah,
for sure. Nate?
Yeah, probably one of the definitely top 3 episode. Maybe second favorite. I may put it up at the top. I loved it. It was great, and I love their round robin directors, as you get so many different feels and so many different great episodes in different ways. And kudos to Robert Rodriguez for putting his fingerprint on this one, because I think it was very well done. Like I've said, this whole pod, but I love getting the different directors and their different viewpoints. So another job well done on that front.
Yeah, and we've mentioned how sometimes it makes the show feel not as serialized with all the different directors, but I do think it's a strength of the show because they get better talent when they know they can come in and essentially put, like you said, your own stamp on an episode without feeling like it's so beholden to where the plot is going.
Yeah, Favreau's a badass.
Yeah, and I think he's written every episode this season.
Yeah, so. I think so.
I think, yeah, that sounds right.
What a beast. All right, for the mad scientist, Brian Banner, and the American hero, Nate Thurmond, I'm the mayor, Jeff Hornacek, and we are the Bro Force Squad podcast. Thank you guys for checking us out. We'll be here for the last 2 episodes of season 2. Hard to believe this second season's almost over with. So check out all of those. You can follow us on Twitter at Bro Force Squad. Type in Bro Force Squad as 3 separate words into YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much anywhere you find your podcasts. And check out everything we post on our website at broforcesquad.com. Till next time, I need to go make a long-distance force-sensitive call to China.
Rates are doubled right now, right?
I think so, but it's really important.
Dank Ferric.
You can only order pizza this time.
I've never heard Dank Ferric till this. Is that like a person's name?
It's just like it's almost like a cuss word, I think.
It's gotta be, yeah.
Yeah.